Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I have, oh, my bed. My bed's a mess. Give me a second. Okay, much better. I need to actually make it. But anyways, I need to change the whole thing. You know, seasonal things. It's been a minute. It needs to get washed. Needs to get changed. I'll do it later. Anyways, so as you see in the title of this video, we are going to be talking about the Decans. I'm doing my own Decan walk. I should have started this earlier, but I kind of want to ruminate in the Decan time, and I'm going to be following the tropical astrological Decans. My hat is dirty, and we're going to follow, just because it's like what these Decans are more based on, just for the time being. And also, I'm not sure how the Decans would really work within real sky astrology, just because of how the zodiacal wheel is a little bit different from there. So yeah, but anyways, this is the first video of the Decan walk. If you know, just so we're gonna go over the basics. If you don't know what that is, if you're unfamiliar with what the Decans are, just a brief overview of what they are, and the different systems we're going to be looking at here, and some recommendations. There's only like so which I guess we'll start off with two major recommendations from for studying the Decans. Okay, so I had to do a bunch of other stuff too. I was like, wait, I should actually do this before I actually, and then just one other thing, and then yeah, the ADHD kicked in, but I'm back. You can't distract me that much. So, two books, which are like the main books that people recommend. One is very, very easily available at the moment, and that is T. Susan Chang's 36 Secrets, a Decanic Journey Through the Minor Arcana of the Tarot. She does touch on this in another book, The Tarot Deciphered and Tarot Correspondences, right? Right? Let me see. Yeah, she touches it on here. Yeah, Tarot Correspondences by T. Susan Chang, yeah, of course. Ancient Secrets for Everyday Readers, really good book. But then also Tarot Deciphered, which is essentially a what's the term? I can't remember the word for it. Essentially, a transcription of the Fortune's Wheelhouse podcast, which she did with Mel Moline, which you see right here. Who also has a great deck that she is working on that is more Decan centric, where the minor arcana are very much like depicting some of the Decanic images that you read about from either the Picatrix, I think also also by let me see, I think also here, this one, which a book I'm kind of reading through. I've kind of put down, I pick up every now and then. I'm slowly reading through it. Then 3 Books of Occult Philosophy, Agrippa's book. Right now I'm on The Natural World. We'll get to the Decans are in another book. And there's one more book that's, I'm not sure, I believe it's still in print. I believe it's still available, and it comes with a deck. This comes off of like a different like tangent to the Decans, because the Decans are then subdivided into halves. And so this is a wheel of small gods, with poetry and art. It's like, yeah, this is a more practical approach. The cards are more, I guess, in a way talismanic apparently for healing medical use. I'm a little iffy on it, but the poetry is really interesting, and I'm not much of a reader of poetry, but you know, reading through them, I'm like, yeah, and then studying the Decans, I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah. But yeah, so you're gonna see some similarities with this to the different correspondences that you read about in Decanic imagery and the deities that are noted in there, and yada yada yada. You know, so yeah, this comes with the deck and the book, and so you can just get the book, but the deck is fun. The deck is fun. So yeah, but those are the most readily available. But the main one that I think everybody should have, and I think this book should be like mass produced for everyone. Like, I think I don't know why it wasn't picked up by a bigger publisher, and I don't know why Three Hands Press isn't like just reprinting it, but Austin Coppock is working on a second edition of his book, 36 Faces, The History, Astrology, and Magic of the Decans. This book is amazing in terms of like learning astrology and how one can better understand the signs and the planets, the constellation, the zodiac and the planets, and how they interwork with each other, and how the planets work best in certain parts of the zodiac. It's really really helpful, and I can't recommend a better book. But it is out of print for now. He said that he was almost done with it, but that was like years ago. I'm like, we're waiting, Austin. And so every year I'll be like, I'll say a certain number of years of it. Like, it's been 2 years, Austin, you're sick. Publish this already. But apparently he's making new art for it. He's redoing some of the work. I don't know what he's doing, but I look forward to just having another copy of this, just because this is a really good book. And yeah, I think it deserves the best. I will get it in hardcover if it comes out in hardcover. So yeah, those two books, fantastic. So what I want to do with this is, of course, look at the main decks. We're going to be that utilize Decanic influences to create the images that we see in there, particularly the Rider-Waite-Smith and the Thoth Tarot by Crowley and Lady Frida Harris. I thought of using Mel Maline's Tabula Mundi, but I'm like, I want to kind of do something else. So we're also going to use the Tarot of the Holy Light, which uses the triplicity method of planetary rulerships for the Decans. And we're going to be looking at the Tarot of Delphi as well. This is just one because it's a go-to of mine. I actually kind of like some of the images that I'm like seeing. I'm like reading into the cards. I'm like, oh, okay. Particularly for this Decan, I'm like, we'll get into it. Same with the Majestic Earth. And the Majestic Earth, it's interesting to see how we can see astrological influences as expressed through landscape paintings. So here we have Mars and Pisces. But there's like a little asterisk to that as well. And of course the Rider-Waite-Smith I mentioned, but more importantly and more excited that I'm really excited about this, and I'm still working through this. So you're gonna get like a really rough cut of what I'm talking about here, because there's a lot to go with this deck, because this deck is not designed for strict correspondences. This is definitely a thing that I'm like working on, feeling like, oh, this correspondence works best for myself, and whatever, like which system works best, or if it's its own thing that I should do with the Decans. But that's the Marielle Tarot. It's something interesting. And it requires a shift with the majors as well, because because of her letters that are connected to it. There's so much to go with it, but yeah. So yeah, I know this video is going to be a little bit longer because we're going to be essentially introducing what I'm going to be doing here, and a brief overview of the Decans, like I said, what they are and how they interplay with the tarot. So yeah, so sorry if this is longer. If you already know this, skip ahead, like, and yeah, which, I mean, yeah, anyways, we're already 10 minutes in. You're like, get to the point. So majors, how do they play into it? And the minors, how do they play into it? So for the most part, Golden Dawn and the Thoth, those systems, pretty similar. They start with the 2s to the 10s, and that's what they play with. That's what we play with for the Decans. And the first card that we get with the Decans, with the first Decan of Aries, which is where they start the year off there with the spring equinox, is Mars and Aries, the 2 of Wands. And then it goes the 3 of Wands, and then the 4 of Wands. And then we go to the 5, 6, and 7 of Discs with the cards of Taurus. And then 8, 9, 10 of Swords. And those are those are connected to Gemini. So yeah. And then as you can see, I'm sure if you're familiar with the Decans, you already know. But again, for those who don't, the planetary ruler of the Decan. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that Mars is in Aries. It is but how to read with that, whether it is indicating that Mars is in Aries, I go back and forth. You know, if you pull the Two of Wands and you're like, yes, when Mars is in Aries, no. I think it's more so look at the Decan that is the first Decan of Aries, the first 10 days of the sun being in Aries, and see what's going on there. Or perhaps look at where Mars, what planet is in that Decan, or perhaps even what asteroid, maybe if whatever it is, what's going on there, what house is it in, yada yada yada, and see where Mars is in relation to that Decan. You know, and it requires some astrological thinking here, of course, because it's astrology. But the next thing you look at is the two majors associated with it. We got Aries for the Emperor and Mars with the Tower. And so they combine together and they blend together, and as well with one other tangent here, the number 2, Chokmah, wisdom. And also I would also like to throw in the major related to that, the High Priestess. Something about her. I like to play with the numbers there, and I like to relate a major to the minor that relates to the number. The 2s all relate to the High Priestess. There's something about her influence that kind of influences this. There's the duality of the 2s here. And so, yeah. So I don't really get opportunity like we see in the Rider-Waite-Smith Two of Wands, which is where I kind of see like the High Priestess as like that unknown other that you want to go out and explore, and with colonial flavorings of this card, conquer and colonize. So yeah, the Tower in its so destructive force, it's really, we got to focus it more in release of energy, you know. And so, yeah. But anyways, so getting off on a tangent there as well. We'll get it more focused as we go along. But to look at the Tower of the Holy Light, though, the planets are a little different. Though here, for the first 2, it's going to say the same. We still get Aries ruled by Mars, Decan, the first 10 degrees of that. And you see here as well, the majors are different. We have the Hierophant for Aries, and we have Strength for Mars. So there's a shift going on with the planetary letters, which are here it's Kaf, which in the Golden Dawn they give Jupiter, and right, yeah. There's a shift in the things are shifted, and the planets get totally different letters. And some of the letters are given to other cards. It's not super drastic. You are going to get them numerically. So like Aleph goes to the Magician, and from there on forward down the alphabet, you get to each letter. The planets, though, like the Magician isn't Mercury in Terror of the Holy Light. The Magician gets air. Mercury is given to the star, but the letter is still Pe. It's gonna get confusing. It deserves its own. It deserves its own video. If you have the Terror of the Holy Light book, you're gonna understand this a little better. I think I'll do a video on it, kind of, you know, mansplaining, manipulating, man-whoring, you know, how to approach this deck and its correspondences. So for now, bear with me. We're just gonna look at it, and hopefully it'll be a more Decanic accurate view of it, because I do believe that this matches up much better than the Two of Wands, just because of the sprout springing from the earth and splitting the earth, and it brings a more relatable and not so destructive approach to Mars, as we see with the Tower. Even though Mars is associated to war and conflict, It's, again, we have to think of it as drive, as passion, as our yeah, drive. That's what I view it as. And what a better card to express that than strength. So yeah, so to briefly go over two of the planetary rulership systems real quick, just to give you a heads up. So the Thoth and the Golden Dawn, they essentially started with Mars and Aries, and then from Mars they go down in order of the planets, of the Chaldean order, doling out, a planet to the sign in order. So you're going to go Mars, and then next goes the Sun, and then after that it's Venus, and then Mercury, and then the Moon, and then it starts all over again with Saturn, and then continues on to Jupiter, and then Mars, Sun, Venus, so on and so forth. I might have skipped over, I might have gotten that wrong. I'm sure someone's going to correct me, but you get the idea. It's the Chaldean descending order of the planets, essentially from fastest to slowest, like the Moon down to Saturn. We start off with Mars, so it gives it a random start. But there's not like an equal, not all the planets are given to all the decans like equally. Mars gets an extra decan with Pisces. In the last decan of Pisces, that's ruled by Mars as well. So those two sections are ruled by Mars, and there's a good reason for that, and an introspection there. But we'll get to that when we get to Pisces, to the last second of Pisces next year. So yeah. Next, the triplicity method, which is what Tarot of the Holy Light uses, and what we're gonna try and use for the Marielle. I'll compare and contrast. I find that both systems kind of interplay with this deck as well, so you can kind of, again, whatever correspondence system works with you, I think Marielle is gonna fit into either one. But I don't hear a lot of people using the triplicity method, but I like it just because it's like, only the signs rulerships stay within the elements that work well with those signs. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So for fire, you have Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, and that is going to be Mars for Aries, the Sun for Leo, and Jupiter for Sagittarius. And you're only going to see those three planets in any of the decans of the fire signs. So any cards that are of the wands, you're only going to get Mars, Sun, and Jupiter within those cards. Now, that means that you're not going to get the Sun card, any Sun decans in any of the water, air, or earth cards. You're going to get Mars in the water, and Mars and Jupiter in the water cards as well. Because those are Mars for Scorpio, Jupiter for Pisces, and Cancer gets the Moon. And you're not going to get the Moon in any of the Fire Wands cards, or in the Swords or the Discs or Pentacles Earth cards, because that's just how the rulership goes, and that's, yeah. And another thing that Tarot of the Holy Light does, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do this with the Marielle, I go back and forth, but she also goes with the Tree of Life, and goes 1, 2, and 3 go in order, but the first card, the middle card gets the first deck. I'm not making quite a bit of sense, but the middle pillar, so that's the 1s, the 6s, the 9s, all get the first, all get the first decans. So you're gonna see 4, and 5 get later decans, but 6 is gonna get the first decan. You're gonna be like, why is that? Just because it's the middle pillar, and that's where everything is in balance and in harmony, and that's where the rulership card is going to go. So you get Mars and Aries for that one. You get Sun and Leo for the 6 of Wands, I believe. And Jupiter in Sagittarius for the 9 of Wands, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So you know, so those like make the cards more balanced and healthier in a way. Whereas here in the Thoth and Golden Dawn, there's a bit more, it gets kind of randomized just by how in order top down, you know, Chaldean order of doling out the planets, it, you know, gives them more randomized, and you get planets. Essentially, you're going to get all the planets and all the suits, you know, at least once, I believe. I don't think there's any suits that don't have any, no, like, that are missing any planets, but there's a balance, and like more set of rules with Terror of the Holy Light and the triplicity method that she uses, that Christine Payne Towler uses for that deck. There's a few other ways of planetary rulerships for the Decans, but those two, I think we're just gonna leave it at that. That's too much. It's my brain can only handle so much. We're already over 20 minutes in on this video, so let's get into Mars. We've already touched on the ideas of breaking out, splitting. That's kind of like the key ideas. Opportunity. You see here, within the Rider-Waite-Smith, we see a man, perhaps a merchant or an explorer, with the globe in his hand and looking out into the ocean and into the lands beyond. And he's in a parapet? Is that? Rampart? At the top of a castle or tower. And looking out into the world, looking out to see what's out there, what's in the beyond, between two wands here, two staves, making a sort of doorway, and a portal of sorts. And so we also see here within the Thoth, we have dominion. And so one could say, again, he's about to explore, or he's looking over the land that he's already conquered, his domain, his dominion. And here it's the world in his hand that he's looking over. And so a good place to meditate on this card is, what is your domain? What would you like to conquer around yourself? You know, this could be a great card for work opportunity. Or what is your domain, or what area is your dominion covering in your work or your house or whatever, you know. What is your responsibilities there? And so that's where that kind of focuses on. But to take a more active approach, because I would like Mars to be a little bit more, have a little more oomph. Mars here likes to give it a push, likes to give it a go. And so what we see here, as Austin Coppock describes it as a, let me see if I can find it. It should be here. Where is it? Here it is. An axe for splitting wood. And as you can see, the image here is very phallic as well for that male Mars energy. And so we get, again, the splitting of wood, but I also like to think of it as bulbs in spring and late winter, early spring, breaking through the dirt and sprouting up, much like how we see here in the Ace of Wands. And we see here the nurturing divine hand holding it up and pulling it up. And we see the fire there, pushing it, driving it upwards. That energy is just awakening it. There's literally some bulbs in that will literally warm up and heat up the ground so that they can melt the ice, so they can break through. I don't know what plant they are. Perhaps like a narcissus, maybe one of those. I'm not sure. Might be fitting for the egotistical fire sign sometimes. So yeah, this is really a drive for going off on one's own, entrepreneurship, and starting your own business, and also leaving the home. The axe brings an energy of splitting and separating. You know, I like to think of the cutting of the umbilical cord. The baby is no longer a part of the mother and is now child, though still attached. So to another extent, it's more so the child now becoming old enough to go to school on its own, you know, and uh, yeah, independence, and going off on one's own, and starting off your own adventure. Bilbo Baggins going off on an adventure, carrying that contract with him. But it's interesting that how in The Hobbit he separates himself from the Shire, but then attaches himself to the dwarves and Gandalf. Interesting how that, you know, you split yourself up and you attach yourself to something else. How independent are you truly? Interesting to note. So yeah. Let me take a look at my notes real quick. Okay, so getting that general idea out of the way, let's look at the planets that work well with this. Obviously, Mars, pretty good. Mars likes this Decan. It is its rulership. It is the Decan that rules it. Yeah, Mars is happy here, you know. Now, whether it's retrograde or not, let's not get into that. I'll save that for the more experienced ones. But again, it's a going back. Does Mars ever retrograde? I don't think Mars ever does it. I think it does. Does it? Astrology girlies, correct me in the comment section down below, please. Thank you. So let's look at other cards that, or not other cards, but, well, depending on if these planets are associated to these cards, let's look at the other planets then. Moon, Venus, Saturn. No. They don't like it here. Because again, it's that drive for independence. Saturn is very limiting. Saturn is definitely is the karmic lord. Mars, Aries, likes to break out of that, likes to do something a little different, likes to go off on his own, you know, the march to the beat of their own drum, or try to at least start that, you know. It's being like, I'm tired of this beat, I'm ready to do something else, let's go do something else. And Saturn is like, no, you know. It is literally the he is literally the titan that swallowed all his children. And essentially Mars, Aries is him spitting up all his children and throwing them up. Or does how are the other kids released? I can't remember. But point is, it's the release of all the other gods and goddesses that were trapped within him. The moon, that is again the mothering, nurturing type of planet here. It's really like there's a dependence to it. We all need something, and the moon is there to show us, is there to represent what we need and how we get what we need, and also how we give to others what we need. Mars and Aries doesn't want that. Doesn't want mommy. No more mommy. You know, like mom. You know, it's very much that. And Venus is allure and attraction, and I guess the only way it could really work is if more so one's independence and going off and doing their own thing is inspiring and alluring to other people. But for the most part, again, this is a card of separation, of moving away, looking to other things. If you are in a relationship and you want a relationship reading, and you're like, what is my partner thinking? And this card is in their mind, they're already looking to something else. You know, it could indicate that they're looking for something more. They want to explore something different to their relationship, or they're already planning to move on, and it's something that should be discussed and talked about. So Venus and relationships and bonds and attraction, it's Venus doesn't do well in its opposite here, in its opposite of Mars and Aries. So yeah, the good cards here, the happier cards, of course, are the ones that share in the triplicity in the triplicity system. Mars, Sun, Jupiter, Mars we already touched on because it is its ruler. The Sun is it's one's ego, that narcissistic self that's kind of like finally about me. What do I want to do? And let's go and do that. Jupiter, expansion, breaking out of that, and the luck as well falls with Jupiter. And so bringing out and doing your own thing. And again, like Jupiter will play pretty well with this type of thing. There's a whole greater world out there, and Jupiter's great expansive long distance travel will help sustain that and carry that out. Now, Mercury does have some difficulty here, since Mercury is kind of a connecting type of planet. It requires a listener. You gotta, again, kind of how I mentioned, Bilbo attaching himself to another one. Mercury connects to a different person verbally or through messages or whatever. So unless it's, messages for breaking contracts or separating from oneself, from again, that all plays a role with that. It's like the type of messages that Mercury is trying to deliver. And so, yeah, I guess the only way is like communications of announcements of a departure, essentially, So, yeah. So that's the different planets within this. Again, a lot of this is kind of taken from is a very minimalized version of what's in Austin Coppock's book. He goes through each planet in each of the decans, and he does a pretty good job, like a good 2 paragraphs of really helpful information on how the planets play in each decan. It's really great and more in depth, and so that's kind of where I got my info on that. But we're keeping it brief, because this is already almost 35 minutes long. So yeah. So to look at the different majors, we already kind of touched on it, but let's go a little deeper on it. So we have the chaotic, destructive, raw release of energy with the Tower, but here we have the Emperor, which is structure and order. Blending the two, it's obvious the wielding of destructive force. Again, instead of trees toppling down by themselves due to natural occurrences, we're now taking a tool of destruction, an axe, a chainsaw, and cutting through the trunks of those trees intentionally and focus and carefully as well, and collapsing these trees in a controlled manner that isn't going to hurt anyone as well, or including the person cutting down the tree. And so you're clearing out a space as well, and so to cultivate it and to turn it into something else, and using the materials that you get from it to continue your domain. And so one of the questions that I wrote on here, that I was like, for the Golden Dawn decks, Thoth, Rider-Waite-Smith, any Rider-Waite-Smith themed deck, is what is the condition of your castle? What's out there that isn't in your home? What is it that's pushing you to look for something out there, Now, for Terror of the Holy Light, we get a different take on it. Here, we definitely get a teacher and taking that knowledge and using it and putting it into action, into a practical and even a more experimental approach. Though I feel like Aquarius Uranus would be more that line, that vein of, doing your own thing, being more creative, but that brings in randomness. The independence is the key here. The teacher has taught you all that he can. Now it's time to put it into work, and now it's time to see it into practice. And the Hierophant here is the shepherd leading the flock. And so now with Mars, Aries, this is springtime. It's the mating season for a lot of species of animals. And so you'll also see the rams butting their heads and, doing their mating rituals, birds dancing, you know, in their intricate ways, and males competing for females and all that, and the females, you know, deciding which is worthy, you know, which would be worthy mates and all that. And so that's with the rising and the erupting and birthing of spring. But here it's again more intellectual, especially with the Hierophant, you know, and teaching us what we can do, and then we come in with Mars and seeing like, oh, how far can we push it, and how, you know, what else can we do with it? Where else outside of what the teacher is telling us, where we can apply this? What if we applied these ideas outside of that, outside of the norm? You know, so yeah, I'm looking. My dad is back home. He just walked across the lawn. I'm like, what's he doing? So, yeah, let's see, what else? So I also was like listening to some music that I was thinking would line up to it, and I'm like, I'm gonna try and find an album for each Decan. Some might be a little more difficult than others, but for sure, for this first Decan, I was listening to AWOL Nation's Here Come the Runts, very much as going back into that heavy metal type sound that the creator of AWOL Nation kind of started off with, and it's very much like the Mars Aries energy is very strong in a lot of those songs, and so just listen to or read up the lyrics on some of the songs, you know, like Cannonball and Here Come the Runts, and what is it? Something Buffoon. I can't remember the name of the song, but Jealous Buffoon. So yeah, it's very like, I'm like, yeah, this is Mars Aries. So yeah, and then I did a spread, but I don't know how to share that with you. I'll probably post it on Instagram, maybe a picture with maybe the cards that I pulled. So be sure to check that. Follow me on Instagram, and so I can show that. And yeah, so other decks to look into. So Tarot of Delphi, to stick with the Golden Dawn, we have here. I really quite liked the picture she picked here. On the surface, it just looks like a woman looking out into the sea, very similar to that. But there's a determination. Oh. Okay, there we go. I snoozed it. I should turn off that alarm real quick. Hold on. Okay, where was I? Determination. There's a determination in her eyes. I don't know if there we go. I don't know. It's very slight, and I quite like that. So yeah. The cards don't quite match up, other than the Emperor's, you know, training, you know, controllingness of it all, you know. But the Tower is very aquatic, you know, which we get here, the shipwreck, and I think the creator Hinkle, she likes her aquatic tower cards as well. Here we have the Tower. We see these waves here. We do see lightning, but it's more water focused. So yeah. So we could see that more of an emotional Tower moment. I think people like fear the emotions that come with it. And what we also see is an arid desert. I think it's the Grand Canyon of Aries here with the Emperor, and with the two combined, essentially, we're going to be getting oh, look at that, a much more introspective, much more high priestessy Two of Wands. Definitely see the opportunities with these arches, with these windows here, and we see this man sitting and more contemplating. So the sitting definitely adds that high priestessy, more passive approach to the Two of Wands. We don't really get that activity that we see with someone standing, like we see in here. And so to look at the Tarot of Delphi's approach to, say, the to the Tarot of the Holy Light, I'm like, this is something I just thought of right before when I was looking. I'm like, let's see, because I do like the Hierophant, you know, the Hierophant, but here he's a healer. And so then we also have Circe with all the men that she turned into animals. And then we also have here the Ace of Wands, the Bacchanal, I think, going on here. She is a priestess of Bacchus or Dionysus, and she's entering this ecstatic dance here with the Ace of Wands. So again, we got that Mars, Aries, fiery energy going on here. But again, just not going too much into it. We're gonna continue on to the Marielle. So here we have for our do I have the Two of Wands? I didn't even get the Two of Wands. Well, I don't know, because here's what I'm thinking of with the Ace of Wands here. We definitely get that. Again, it looks like the lion head is kind of trying to split away from itself, even a splitting of the ego, perhaps. And we get this strong energy release here. It's just there's so much energy flowing here where it doesn't even know where to put it, what to do with it, how to utilize it. And so with the Hierophant and Strength as the cards that could possibly be the associated with going in line with Tarot of the Holy Light, and the letters that are given there, I'm like, okay, I could see Mars for strength. And this is, again, a spiritual strength. It's a restraint. It's meditating and praying to calm down those high energy releases. And the Hierophant is how you do that, how you express that. And taking into account the Tarot of Delphi image, we could think of it as like ceremonial dancing almost, to release that energy, you know, something about that. Now I do like the Emperor and the Tower here. I just love this Emperor in general, and you see the parallels with the gleaming sword as like a lightning rod, and the Tower receiving that eruption, that, you know, that phallic maleness going on there. But again, I don't really quite see how the Two of Wands can deal with so much of that high active energy. It's so again, opportunity, but I think it's, again, that empty space for dominion, because it is, again, we see these two trees as the two wands, and that dark empty space, and the fire that we get from the Tower and the Emperor could, you know, illuminates, you know, the Emperor as a solar figure and a Jupiterian figure as well for expansion, and the Tower being very fiery, and Mars, it pushes and fills, and it's a big bang and filling up the empty space of space, illuminating the darkness and filling it with life and light. And again, that's only if we push for it, if that makes sense. So yeah, the next thing that I was noting, well, there's something else, but I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it. It's too much of a tangent, and this video is already really long for that. And so, yeah, I'll post that spread there. Let me see what else we have on here. So yeah. So again, take a note of what planets are in our showing up in spreads with this Decan, with this card of this Decan, particularly Mars, Sun, and Jupiter. Those are very positive cards. Again, that's Jupiter particularly with that expansiveness, and but again, look to see if you're doing reversals, how does that affect it? You know, what planetary cards are being reversed? If the Tower shows up with the Two of Wands reversed, what's going on? You know, if Moon, Venus, and Saturn are kind of all around this Two of Wands, that's definitely like restricting it and holding it back, and something's blocking. There's a lot of blockages going on there, probably more of the emotional nature. But yeah, that's another thing. And I'm not sure what else. In terms of personal life, nothing too different has showed up. I haven't really done any like breaking out of things. You know, to do it within these 10 days is very last minute, but I think that's where you take the year to build up to it, and then you push past and break out of it. You know, I'm thinking of like, you know, moving out, getting your own space, you know, all that breaking up even. But it takes time. You can't just do it quickly unless something abrupt happens. Then you can. So yeah, there we go. So that's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say on that. Thank you everyone who watched, and let me know what you guys think. What was your life like during these past few days of this Decan of Mars, Aries, and what else? I don't know what else. I don't know what else. I hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know the next time I go live or I upload. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.